Okay, I'm going to do this video, and I don't know if you guys can see in the background my little Lego city. Noelle gets me these kits, and um, I have one of the Space Needle, which is over here. I couldn't fit it on that shelf. That shelf is leaning because I need better screws in it. But anyway, it's got Tokyo and it's got Vegas. So you can't see the split from here, but those are the two, right? I got 3 shelves, so I might just put them across the back. But that's not what this video is about. I found out about this due to another YouTuber called The Crimson Cure. And I have talked about many times that we need, and I'm holding back emotions because being a father, I don't like seeing stuff where children are harmed. You know, I don't like it. And I know a lot of people that don't. But just reading this story really kind of got to me, made me angry. I could not have been the police officers who showed up and, dealt with. I couldn't have done it, and I wouldn't have been a good officer because I would have done something to this guy and this woman at the same time. But I'm going to try to get through this story, and again, I could have swore I saw something about this, but there was not as much detail and information. I'm trying to get this to come up. I don't know why my internet's acting crazy right now, but let's try it again. And I'm gonna have to sanitize it for YouTube. Be sure to join the Discord down in the description box below. And the title says, and I will put a link to the description or in the description box below of this case, this low life and this low life trash woman that he's with. I will say this: there have been so many people who will sit here and talk about black men in such a nasty, negative way and paint all of us as evil. I've seen some black women on YouTube sit here and celebrate white men and talk about how great they are and compare them to black men and say that we're horrible. And even have put white supremacists on their own platforms to talk about black men in such a negative way. And I guarantee you those people will not talk about this particular situation. And there's been a few of these types of situations that have happened that are just disgusting. And that's not to say you don't have black men who do horrible stuff, because you do. This one here is probably the lowest thing I have ever read or seen in my entire life. And what gets me is, you have some people who will sit and dog black men who date other races of women, and they don't sit there and talk about if that person's doing something bad, or if they were a bad couple or a toxic couple or anything like that. There's examples of where you can be the same race and it can be toxic and it can be bad. It's all in the news. People should judge people based on the content of their character and not on their skin tone. And unfortunately, we have a very sick and twisted world. And unfortunately, the father of these kids, this trash woman who's on government assistance, a completely different topic that I can go down several rabbit holes on. But their image is in the icon, because this is who we should be focusing on, these two individuals, because these poor children are in such, I feel for them. The 15-year-old, I feel for him. I feel for all the kids. These two individuals here they should face the maximum penalty Period. They should not even be here on this planet. As far as the legal system should. I'm going to read through this, but it says the title boyfriend broke kid's jaws weeks prior to House of Horrors discovery by the cops. A Texas man is charged with felony murder for allegedly beating his girlfriend's 8-year-old son to death, then abandoning the victim's 3 younger brothers to fend for themselves in a filthy home alongside the decaying CORPSE, has subjected the children to regular physical abuse, breaking the middle child's in recent weeks, police said Wednesday. This piece of scum trash. He epitomizes the primitive trash knuckle dragging that is he. Again, I could not be a cop. I couldn't. He's got warrior on his neck. He's not. He's a coward. He's a bunch of other things, but warrior, not that. Brian Ward Coulter, 31, Killed the boy Kendrick Lee with his fists and feet around Thanksgiving of 2020. And the poor little boy was listed as 9 years old, but they later said he was 8. The mother, Gloria Yvette Williams, 35, which is equally disgusting and nasty, dusty and busted as he is, allowed this to happen. And instead of taking care of her kids, she basically abandoned the rest of her children, as well as the poor 8-year-old who's lying there, no longer around, no longer alive, laying there for a year. And she goes and gets an apartment with this piece of trash, using her own government assistance to get another apartment. And every now and again brings food over to them because they didn't want to be around what he caused and what he created. Will there be accountability on this one? Because there's always never accountability. When we bring up trash women, there's no accountability. If there's a guy, especially if he's black, accountability has to be there. What about this situation? People say it shouldn't be a race thing. It is, unfortunately, in America. It is. If you're a black dude, you darn near have to walk on water, but everybody else can. It's just kind of how sick society is. No. She left the dry skeletal remains behind in a Houston area apartment they shared with the 4 kids, 2 of whom are believed to be on the autism spectrum. The surviving brothers, aged 7, 10, and 15, were only rescued from the deplorable home on Sunday after the 15-year-old reportedly texted his mom to say he couldn't take it anymore. Then he called 911. Investigators say that Williams and Coulter had been together for a few years, and abuse was common for Williams' boys, who had 2 different fathers, one of whom has since died. They said that the police officer said that the beatings were consistent, mainly involving the younger children, because he's a coward. Period. He didn't want to go after the bigger one because he probably would have cleaned his clock. After the little boy passed on, the couple stuck around in the Houston apartment for a while, but then ditched the boys in the bare, roach-infested space for no reason other than their own convenience. They were distancing themselves from the poor little boy. By the time they moved out, you're talking about probably 5 to 6 months after he passed on. They know the entire time that there is a person in the apartment no longer alive. So they go and live in another apartment so they don't have to be around it. Coulter and Williams moved into a new place about 25 minutes away. Now, again, let's go back. The surviving kids are 7, 10, and 15. which means at the time 6, 9, and 14. And you have a trash mother who allowed this to happen and then abandons her children. And you're going to have some people, well, where were the fathers at? Where were the fathers at? I could see why no man would want to be around her. And unfortunately, 4 times this trash gave birth. There are women out here who want to have a child and can't, who would do anything to be able to have a child. And I was there when my children were born, all 3 of them. It's such a magical moment. It was the biggest thing in my entire life. I've achieved quite a bit of things. Those 3 instances were the biggest things in my life. And to be able to sit there and allow someone to do something like that, and then you basically sit there for 4 or 5 months walking past your own child that you birthed, and allow a man to do this to your own child. There are women you find on YouTube who say that, if they're dating a dude, and if he were to just tell the kids, to behave, that's a problem. They say that Williams occasionally the mother stopped by occasionally to provide some food and also sent food via delivery. At one point a few weeks ago, that trash dude allegedly attacked the middle child, leaving him with a broken jaw. The kid never saw a doctor. Ever. Imagine a broken jaw. A child. Never saw a doctor. Now he's going to be going to undergo surgery to fix his shattered face. All 3 of the surviving brothers were very thin. And people want to sit and talk about, there's all these programs for young girls, black girls. You'll see it everywhere. And this is not something to sit here and talk negative about black women or black girls. No, there should be help all along the board, but there's no help for young black boys. There's no one that's sitting here ringing the alarm for young black boys. There's no one sitting here talking about the struggle and the difficulties that young black boys and young black men have. There's no one who gives a damn. Even in our black community, they don't give a damn. Even when there's things that were created and started for us, it ends up being warped and turned into something else. This is why I do videos, and people may not like them. I don't care. I do videos that talk about what young black men should do, because this is what this is a prime example. And there's many others I can go through where no one cares. You have some of those people who the Hotep crap and all of this other stuff, who talk about, black families, black families. Well, there was one that was created and was allowed to be destroyed because you had this type of woman who allowed her children she not only neglected and abused her own children too, because she wasn't there for them. She abandoned them. She allowed this type of stuff to happen. She's just as equally guilty as this piece of trash. And this is pervasive. These 2 are not an exception. This is pervasive. If you think these 2 are exceptions to the rule, you're kidding yourself. The 3 surviving brothers were very thin. And another thing, because people will sit and want to somehow blame black men for it, or the black father. One is dead, so they'll probably make whatever crap they want to about him, and we don't know about him. The other one, we don't know the circumstance. We don't know if he fathered 1 kid or 3 kids or 2 kids. We don't know. And with her wanting to collect government assistance, she has a huge incentive to make sure that he's no longer around or a part of the picture at all. because it's about the child's father's not in my life, so he's not taking care of anything. So of course she's going to get oodles and oodles of money and oodles of help and all this other stuff because he's not around. She has an incentive. She can keep old boy around and say, well, he's just a boyfriend. He's just a friend. And of course, there's no checks and balances. There needs to be more done. When you're getting assistance, there needs to be more done. There needs to be something that says that you can't give kids like, junk food, chips, and all the sodas. When you're getting government assistance and food aid, it should not be allowed. Gonzalez described the apartment as having a deplorable condition with no furniture, no bedding or blankets, soiled carpets, and an infestation of insects. The boys were not allowed to leave the apartment, and there was some evidence that they had been locked up in different parts of the home. This is a textbook case of a person that abuses children. Investigators don't believe Williams, who has 6 children in total, was abused by Coulter. Now, again, I go back to what I've said before. The vast majority of black men in this country do not have children. The vast majority don't. And the ones that do this type of thing where there's constant, a woman will have 6, 7 kids with different fathers like this, is typically the same dudes that are always going around doing the exact same thing with multiple different women. The vast majority of young black men, the vast majority, and even grown black men, don't have kids. I know more black men who are single, who don't have kids, than I do the other way around. And the ones who are married, I know quite a few who are married, and we have 3 or 4 kids. I know one that has, I have 3. I know one that has 2. I know one that has like 1. I can look at my family and talk and see the responsible black men that are there. Some of which who took care of back in the day, took care of someone else's kids, married a woman who was black, who had other kids, and all of that. So when I see all these things from different people from YouTube and other places, white people, some black folks and some black women and others sit here and talk negative about black men, I'm like, you obviously are so dumb and uneducated. And you're a big part of the problem. It's to demonize all black men for the failures of some. And a woman has to decide if she wants to be able to lay down with some dude. She makes that choice. A lot of these dudes show who they are in the very beginning. And if you look at his picture, you can tell he's trash. Tattoos on his face, I'm going to call it the way it is, trash. Look at her. She looks like she basically took a bunch of, because she's too darn cheap, she took something, peroxide, and dumped it over her head. He didn't abuse her, they think. He wasn't the father of any of the 4 because of course he doesn't want to have kids by her. Of course not. To him, it's probably some sort of a fetish. Now, people will sit here and say whatever, but it's probably some sort of a fetish. He doesn't want to have kids by her. He's not going to do right by her. He's someone who is a big-time predator who attacks someone who's weaker than they are. He would never stand there and try to go after me. He would never do that. So the mother is charged with 2 counts of injury to a child by omission and 1 count of tampering with evidence, specifically human remains. She is also facing charges of failure to provide medical care and failure to provide adequate supervision. There should be a whole lot longer list than that. It's letting her off very lightly. There should be a whole lot longer list. Little is known about Coulter, whose Instagram page is filled with videos of himself eating well, of course, off of government assistance that she's raking up, because he doesn't have no job. Photos of himself sporting diamond jewelry and professing his love for his girlfriend and family. These are relationship goals for some. Because every black dude is trash. In testimony provided by the two youngest boys during a Wednesday court hearing for their mother, both recount the moment when they said that that trash dude did away with their younger brother, saying that he kicked and punched the 8-year-old until he had black eyes and stopped moving. Williams allegedly told police she saw the attack happen as well. She claimed she tried unsuccessfully to stop Coulter, who she said apologized the next day, saying he snapped and beat on him until he went to sleep. But see, that's acceptable. Williams said in court that she knew her son was no longer alive last November, but that Coulter told her not to report it to the police, that she feared the kids would be taken away and she would be in jail. No, she feared losing government checks. She doesn't care about the kids, obviously, because if she cared about the kids, this is the whole thing. And the reason why you have some dudes who sit here and talk about some of the things they do on YouTube about how that there's no such thing as the black community because there's so much crap that's going on. It's not to say that all black folks are doing this. No, there are the vast majority of black folks and black women and black men are on the right path. But this is for those who sit there and talk negative. As soon as you see a black dude with somebody else, they sit there and talk everything that they can about them negatively. Whenever they see a black chick with a white dude, they say nothing. When they see stuff like this happen, they say nothing. This is for those people. She didn't want to sit there and notify the police because if she did, one, he didn't want the police to call because he knew he'd be in jail and he would lose his meal ticket. She didn't want the police to come because she didn't want to end up losing her kids. She already lost one forever. She doesn't care about the kids. She just wants to make sure that she's able to get money. And that's one of the biggest roots of all evil in our community is money. You have a lot of people who sit here and think that money is the only thing that matters. When people were talking about Dr. Dre and his wife divorcing, most of the people who trolled him, who were talking negative about him, mainly because she's not black, was about money. That's all they cared about. They didn't care about the fact that she was there with him whenever he was nothing and all the way through. They didn't talk about that. They're talking about money. That's the only thing that seems to really matter in our community, unfortunately. Not just our community, there's others, but I'm not other. I'm black. In our community, it seems like that's the main thing that's important. I want a self-made man that's making all this type of money. I provide nothing except for just me. Or if they can't, if they know that they're not able to, and they look like this trash, they know they can't get a quality dude, so they'll get some sort of trash dude like this, and the government will be their financial meal ticket. I'm just pissed. I'm tired of it. So Wolford told reporters the eldest child was just absolutely afraid, basically hoping or relying on his mother to at some point contact law enforcement and advise them of his brother who's in the house. And that didn't happen. And I think after a year's time, 1 year, 12 months, the 15-year-old finally said enough is enough. Last Sunday, the teen called 911. When officers arrived, they find the poor boy that was decomposing out in the open. It appears they were basically fending for themselves. The older siblings were doing the best they could to take care of others. When the police rescued the boys, they asked them if they were hungry. They asked for donuts. The cops gave them that. While Williams had occasionally been providing food, Gonzalez said cops didn't see anything that was healthy, describing it more like junk food, noodles and chips and soft drinks and stuff like that. Doesn't surprise me. The kids hadn't attended school since May 2020. The local school district twice filed truancy papers against Williams, but charges were dismissed due to the COVID pandemic. There are other reasons. If that was me, and I had these kids, and they were out, guarantee you I'd be in cuffs. Guarantee you. Right? There's two different systems. If you're a man and you did that, black man and you did that, come on. The children had been getting additional sustenance from a neighbor who supplied food and charged their cell phones after the apartment's electricity was shut off. Residents of the City Park 2 development, which is about 20 miles from downtown Houston, couldn't understand how things got so bad for so long without anyone spotting a problem. Isaac Ford, 54, told the Daily Beast that he had seen Williams around the complex now and again, but never saw her kids. It's so strange how a whole body can be in the house for a whole year, with nobody coming in or out or seeing it. One neighbor told the newspaper that the maintenance staff had routinely came around to the apartments and asked if they need repairs. She wondered how none of the workers noticed that this was going on in that unit. I'm concerned nobody smelt nothing, the neighbor said, declining to be identified out of concerns for her own safety. Something's not adding right, something ain't right. Another neighbor also requested anonymity, said that the odor from the apartment was so foul she couldn't run her air conditioner because it brought the stench to her home. The neighbor said she asked building maintenance or management to look into it, but nothing happened. Again, nothing surprising because this is an assisted, they're getting their money. They're getting their money from the government. They don't care. They don't care. Okay, so they said that the cause of death was homicidal violence with multiple blunt force injuries. The autopsy report would not be available until after the criminal case has been adjudicated. Coulter and Williams were detained for questioning last Sunday by police who found the duo at a public library looking online for news about their case. They were initially released because investigators need more time to gather evidence. I would say those children will be very vital and key witnesses. These children have been through enough, and unfortunately, they're going to have to go in court and sit there and try to relive this whole thing again. And then they have to sit there and look at their nasty mother and the person who also did this to their brother. They have to sit there and look at them. These kids will need a lifetime of counseling. They are now under the care of state child welfare authorities. The grandmother, a 7-year-old, said that she would gladly adopt all 4 of the kids had she known what was going on. I don't even trust that. The kids need to be out of that whole family, to be honest with you. Coulter's mom, Debbie, whatever, immediately hung up without comment when contacted on her cell phone. This is Debbie Vasconellos or whatever. Coulter's father did not respond to a voicemail seeking comment. Relatives of Williams were unable to be reached Wednesday. This shows you both families are just disgusting. Of course they're not going to sit and have anything to say. Of course not. Coulter is now the trash dude is undergoing a court-ordered psychiatric evaluation. The judge set his bail at $1 million. Williams' combined bail for all 3 charges added up to $900,000. Police say more charges are expected to be filed. They said this one affected us. Yeah. Similar to, and I didn't listen to the rest of the Crimson Cure. Shout out to her. I didn't listen to the rest of her video because I said this ain't real. And I went to this article, and it's real. This is disgusting beyond. And this crazy thing is that there's very little news on this. There's very little news. And there's more news right now about, and unfortunately for Gabby Petito and all of that happened, there's more news still about Gabby Petito and the old boy who's no longer alive either. There's more news on that than it is on this. Because nobody cares. It's young black boys. Nobody cares. The media doesn't care. The media had said in Florida that if this were to happen, and it's not a race thing. It is. Obviously it is. It is. And there'll be people who say start playing victim. This right here shows you why people are victims. Because the system has failed. It often fails daily. This right here is a part of the system that failed. Hopefully the justice system will step in and make these two pay a tremendous price for this. But these children are scarred. These boys, these young black boys are scarred for life. For just merely existing and had the sad luck of being in this situation. The sad luck of having to be born to this. I was up there reading this and literally fighting back tears the whole time. And just thinking what is going through that 8-year-old's mind. And the other kids thinking like, what's going on? Why isn't she doing something? Saying she tried to stop him. Really? From the looks of it, she's a pretty big chick. And you're not trying to do much because she's afraid of losing him. She doesn't want to lose him. She wants to make sure he's comfortable. She'll kick the fathers out quick. She wants to make sure he's comfortable. So she moves to another apartment. Because he's not comfortable with the crime he committed and the crime that she allowed to happen. So they move someplace else. And, he's eating good because she's providing for him to eat good. Yet the kids get junk food. Oh, I got some chips here. Cheap little bag of chips is what he gets. Or is what the kids get. Her own kids. Yet she's getting tons of money from the government. And she's getting housing. Apartments in Houston, Texas are not that expensive. Housing in Houston's not that bad. I did a video talking about housing costs here versus other places. Houston was one of them. You get a big old nice house in Houston. Apartments are not that expensive, and it's government aid. So she's not paying anything. And she's getting benefits, welfare for those children. That's the reason why it's a money game. It is having as many kids as you can because, yep, I can get money. I know this dude ain't about nothing, but I'm going to have as many kids as I can. Or if he is a little bit about something. Some of these dudes who grew up poor, a lot of them want to be in their kids' life. A lot of them. The percentage of those who just don't care and they don't want to have nothing to do with their kids or any, it's not as big as what people try to make you believe and think. A lot of it is because of women like this who will say, I don't want you in my kid's life. Or use their kids as some sort of a wedge piece to say, well, if you're not giving me this, you're not doing that, you're not going to see your kids. That happens often. And guess what? She calls the police on you if you do show up and demand to see your kid. And guess who's going to go to jail? Probably you, because she can make whatever excuse that she wants and whatever excuse that she wants to claim. And you're more than likely going to end up going to jail. That's the way the system has just completely failed. The system allowed this to happen. All parts of it allowed this to happen. Because even though with the school tried to say, look, something's not right, but guess what? Nope. Because of COVID and things like that, they're like, it's COVID, so it's all good. We want to make sure. But nobody's really going and checking. You should go and check on the kids. Go and see what's going on. Say, hey, you guys were in school. It's not like she's going to keep the kids home to homeschool them and to teach them. She doesn't care. Send them back to school. She doesn't care. I don't know. I to these young boys, I wish I could have been there to help you. Because I would have. Absolutely, I would have. This type of thing should never happen. And for the little boy that's no longer here, God, that is just difficult. Very difficult. But anyhow, please join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment. Until next time, I will see you. Take care.